Just going through, looking for some investments, trying to see what's out there potentially. $11 yield. This should be something. Yeah, this could be getting into undervalued territory. Shit is pretty good. Listen to their earnings call. Set. Try that out.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Cal-Maine Foods First Quarter Fiscal 2026 Earnings Conference Call. All participants are in a listen-only mode. After today's prepared remarks, there will be a question-and-answer session. At that time, I will provide instructions for those wishing to ask a question. Please note, this call is being recorded. I will now turn the call over to Sherman Miller, President and Chief Executive Officer of Cal-Maine Foods. Please go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your interest in Cal-Maine Foods and the opportunity to share our results and outlook. This is an important milestone for us as it marks our first ever earnings call. It's an important part of our commitment to a more robust investor relations strategy aimed at increasing visibility into the institutional investment community and providing stakeholders with increased transparency into our business. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that today's remarks may include forward-looking statements. These are based on management's current expectations and are subject to risk and uncertainty described in our SEC filings. I want to start the call today with an expression of humbleness and gratitude. I'm humbled each morning and realize the dedication of our commitment
to Sherman Miller, President and Chief Executive Officer of Cal-Maine Foods. Please go ahead. Question and answer session. At that time, I will provide instructions for those wishing to ask a question. Please note, this call is being recorded. I will now turn the call over to Sherman Miller, President and Chief Executive Officer of Cal-Maine Foods. Please go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your interest in Cal-Maine Foods and the opportunity to share our results and outlook. This is an important milestone for us as it marks our first ever earnings call. It's an important part of our commitment to a more robust investor relations strategy aimed at increasing visibility.
It's being recorded. I will now turn the call over to Sherman Miller, President and Chief Executive Officer of Cal-Maine Foods. Please go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your interest in Cal-Maine Foods and the opportunity to share our results and outlook. This is an important milestone for us as it marks our first ever earnings call. It's an important part of our commitment to a more robust investor relations strategy aimed at increasing visibility into the institutional investment community and providing stakeholders with increased transparency into our business. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that today's remarks may include forward-looking statements. These are based on management's current expectations and are subject to risk and uncertainty described in our SEC filings. I want to start the call today with an expression of humbleness and gratitude. I'm humbled each morning and realize the dedication and strength of our Cal-Maine family. I'm truly grateful to have the opportunity to represent each and every one of them on this call today. I'd like to recognize a few folks that have been a huge part of building the Cal-Maine Foundation, which is the platform that we operate from today. Cal-Maine has always been about people, our over 4,000 employees, our customers, our communities, and our shareholders. Every day our team demonstrates the discipline, accountability, and frugalness that have defined this company from the very beginning. We stand on the shoulders of our founder, Fred Adams, and leaders like Dolph Baker, who remains an important guide as board chair. Also, there is a long list that have mentored both me and our management team as a whole. I'd like to name just a few. Steve Storm, Bob Scott, Jack Self, David Jenkins, Mark Ashby, all previous vice presidents of operations, Bobby Raines, Tim Dawson, previous CFOs, Jeff Harden and Kim Paramore, both previous vice presidents of sales, Ken Looper, former president, Joe White, former vice president of feed mills, Charlie Collins and Mike Casperry, both former controllers. There are many more to thank, but for the sake of time, I just want to say a very simple and humble thank you to all of our employees, both past and present. Each has contributed to building a strong foundation that is in place today. The cornerstones of that foundation are simple. We have broad scale, which provides us significant benefits. Our vertically integrated model allows us to manage every step of production, which keeps costs low, enables supply reliability, safeguards quality and food safety, and gives us the flexibility to optimize output. This is also a significant competitive advantage. Our culture, what we refer to as the Cal-Maine Way, is one focused on operational excellence. We define operational excellence as an unwavering focus on the fundamentals. That means investing in modernization, embedding biosecurity, and applying the Cal-Maine Way of accountability across our operations. With respect to biosecurity, we've invested more than $80 million in equipment, procedures, and training to safeguard locked health and mitigate the risk of highly pathogenic avian influenza since 2015. Unfortunately, high-path AI remains a reality for the industry. Financially, we're operating from a position of strength with a great balance sheet and enough cash to opportunistically pursue acquisitions and further our strategy. Finally, as I mentioned, we have a fantastic team with significant depth and experience. Speaking of our team, I'd like to welcome Melanie Bolden and Kira Lombardo of Cal-Maine. Melanie, who joins our board of directors, has deep expertise in the food and beverage industry, and nearly 3 decades of global business management, brand building, and experience in companies like Coca-Cola, Kraft, and most recently Tyson. Kira was recently appointed as the company's first ever Chief Strategy Officer. Like Melanie, Kira has significant experience working with consumer-facing companies. She will work with our senior leadership team to further accelerate and shape enterprise priorities, building on Cal-Maine Foods' leadership role in a rapidly changing marketplace. Our foundation and strong business momentum allowed us to deliver the strongest first quarter in our history and also reflects the benefits of diversification, the strength of our operations, and the progress we've made in positioning Cal-Maine for the future. Specifically, our results were driven by strong growth in specialty eggs and expansion of our prepared foods platform, supported by solid performance in conventional eggs. Together, specialty eggs and prepared foods accounted for nearly 40% of net sales, underscoring their central role in Cal-Maine's strategy and long-term financial performance. These results show Cal-Maine advancing as a diversified, consumer-driven food company. Our conventional egg business continues to provide stability and scale, while specialty eggs and prepared foods are increasingly shaping the future of our portfolio. Specialty eggs and prepared foods are positioned as growth engines, shifting our mix toward higher value categories. And across it all, our vertical integration and financial strength ensures that we can execute with discipline and resilience. With that, let me turn the call over to our Chief Financial Officer, Max Bowman, to drill down into our results for the quarter and discuss our capital allocation framework. Max?
Thanks, Sherman, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for tuning into our first live earnings call. This is a new format to us and is part of an increased focus on our part to deliver increased transparency to all of our stakeholders. As a reminder, we published our earnings release and 10-Q this morning. Additionally, we have published a brief earnings presentation on our website. These documents contain detailed information on our financial results. I'll touch on the highlights for the first quarter of fiscal 2026. Net sales were $922.6 million, up 17.4% from $785.9 million last year. The increase was driven by increase in shell egg sales and from contributions from our recent acquisitions in the prepared food space. Shell egg sales were $789.4 million, up 6.5%. Driven by a 3.9% increase in net average selling price for shell eggs and a 7.5% increase in specialty egg sales volume. Shell eggs represented 85.6% of total net sales. That's down 880 basis points from last year as our portfolio mix diversified to prepared foods. Specialty eggs generated $283.5 million in sales, up 10%. With double-digit growth in cage-free and pasture eggs. Specialty eggs account for more than 30% of net sales. Conventional egg sales generated $505.9 million in sales, up 4%. Prepared foods delivered $83.9 million in sales, an increase of over 800%, with Echo Lake Foods contributing sales of $70.5 million. Prepared foods represented more than 9% of our net sales this quarter. This shift in mix demonstrates how specialty eggs and prepared foods are shaping our portfolio towards higher margin categories. Gross profit was $311.3 million, or 33.7% of net sales, up from $247.2 million, or 31.5% of net sales last year. This nearly 26% improvement in gross profit was driven primarily by higher shell egg selling prices, growth in our specialty egg sales volume, lower feed costs, and contributions from prepared foods. Operating income was $249.2 million, or 27% of net sales, compared with $187 million, or 23.8% a year ago, a 320 basis point improvement. Net income was $199.3 million, or $4.12 per diluted share, up from $150 million, or $3.06 per diluted share last year. These improvements were driven by higher average selling prices for shell eggs and the incremental contributions from prepared foods. Turning to costs and expenses, our feed costs were actually a source of support this quarter. On a per dozen basis, feed costs increased about 4% year-over-year, driven primarily by lower soybean meal prices. That reduction translated into roughly $6 million in savings in cost of sales. SG&A expenses increased modestly, up about 12% from the prior year. This was largely tied to higher sales volume and the integration of Echo Lake Foods, which drove higher delivery expense and other overhead. Marketing was essentially unchanged. Importantly, these added SG&A costs are directly supporting growth in both shell eggs and prepared foods. In fact, SG&A as a percentage of sales decreased slightly from the prior year. On the production side, capacity expansion and rebuild post-HPAI is also supporting our growth. Breeder flocks increased 46%, chicks hatched were up 77%, and the average number of layer hens rose 10%. We sold 2.5% more dozens year-over-year, with specialty dozens increasing 7.5%. Our growth is not only driven by pricing, but also by real volume expansion, supported by long-term investments in our capacity. We continue to see tangible benefits from our modernization initiatives and inline facilities. These investments enhance yields, improve our productivity, and reinforce our low-cost position. The Cal-Maine way, embedding best practices and process innovation, remains central to our ability to operate efficiently. Operating cash flow was very strong at $278.6 million, more than double last year's level of $117.5 million. We ended the quarter with $252 million in cash and equivalents and $1 billion in investments, and we remain virtually debt-free. Our capital allocation approach is centered on maximizing total shareholder return, and we view it through 5 lenses. First, our dividend. Consistent with our standing dividend policy, we will pay a dividend of $1.37 per share, payable November 13th to shareholders of record on October 29th. Second, share repurchases. We plan to take an opportunistic approach to share repurchases, guided by our broader commitment to disciplined capital deployment. Depending on circumstances, we may use different methods to execute buybacks, such as open market purchases, accelerated programs, or prearranged trading plans. Third, earnings per share growth. This is supported by disciplined reinvestment in our business, particularly in modernization, margin expansion initiatives, and efficiency programs. Fourth, M&A. We are focused on related areas of geographic expansion and opportunities that meet strict financial return thresholds while strengthening our supply position. Prepared foods is a great example of this. We're the best investment within ourselves and the fast-growing subcategories we are building. And finally, multiple expansion. Over time, as we shift our mix and deliver higher quality, more predictable earnings, we believe Cal-Maine Foods will be positioned for a valuation that reflects that improvement. In short, our strong cash generation allows us to fund growth, support our dividend, be opportunistic on repurchases, and pursue disciplined M&A. In turn, these actions create even more cash flow for future deployment. That concludes my review of the financial results. I'll now turn it call back to Sherman for additional commentary on where we're going strategically.
Thanks, Max. Let me close by reinforcing a few things. Cal-Maine is the largest egg producer in the United States with significant scale and vertical integration that delivers efficiency, lower cost, and supply reliability. But scale alone is not enough. Consumers are demanding more choice, more convenience, and more protein-rich foods. Our mission is to meet that demand with a diversified portfolio that ranges from conventional eggs, specialty eggs, and increasingly into prepared foods. Specialty eggs and prepared foods are not promises for tomorrow. They're delivering today. Over time, we expect them to continue to improve the quality of our eggs and lead to margin expansion. We're executing a strategy to create a stronger, more predictable Cal-Maine. That strategy, of course, has a strong M&A component embedded in it, supported by a robust pipeline of disciplined, accretive opportunities. Echo Lake is a great example of how we're executing. Since the acquisition in June, utilization has ramped quickly, and we are on track to exceed every financial and operational expectation we set forth at the time of the acquisition. We've already approved a new $14.8 million investment in a high-speed pancake production line at our Burlington, Wisconsin facility, which will expand capacity, add automation, and improve packaging to capture accelerating customer demand. Projects like this will increase efficiency and scale and demonstrate our approach to disciplined investment in extensions and subcategories with attractive returns supported by strong consumer demand. We're becoming a house of brands, from Eggland's Best, Land O'Lakes, Farmhouse Eggs, 4 Grain, Sun-Up, Sunny Meadow, Meadow Creek Foods to Copini, reaching consumers across national, regional, and private label programs. We account for roughly half of all Eggland's Best sales, which remains the #1 brand of specialty eggs in the United States. Our scale, vertical integration, and financial discipline provide a strong foundation, while specialty eggs and prepared foods are proven growth engines, delivering higher quality, more consistent earnings. Together, these strengths make Cal-Maine a compelling combination of both value and growth in today's food sector. At the same time, our mission is clear. We provide one of the most nutrient-dense, affordable sources of protein available. That matters today more than ever. Eggs are purchased by 97% of U.S. households and remain one of the lowest cost sources of high-quality protein. Consumers are eating more protein overall, with high-protein diets ranking as the most common eating pattern for the 3rd consecutive year. Eggs fit squarely into that trend because they are fresh, versatile, and cost-effective. Specialty formats and ready-to-eat products extend that value proposition, giving people more ways to include eggs in their diet. This is not just about chasing trends, it's about meeting fundamental needs for nutrition, affordability, and value in the American diet. Looking forward, our strategy is clear. We will, #1, expand specialty and prepared foods. #2, leverage vertical integration and operational excellence to remain a low-cost, reliable supplier. And #3, pursue disciplined M&A to drive mix uplift, expand geographically, and create long-term stockholder value. Cal-Maine combines scale, vertical integration, and financial strength to proven growth in specialty and prepared foods. Conventional eggs provide a strong foundation while consumer demand for protein and the relative affordability of eggs creates powerful tailwinds. Our disciplined capital allocation and operational excellence reinforce this advantage. We're confident that the initiatives we're executing today will translate into durable growth, stronger margins, and higher returns for our shareholders. I want to close by thanking the entire Cal-Maine team for their dedication, our customers for their trust, and our stockholders for their continued support. With that, I'll turn the call back over to the operator to begin the Q&A portion of today's call.
Thank you so much. And as a reminder, to ask a question, simply press star 11 on your telephone to get in the queue and wait for your name to be announced. To remove yourself from the queue, press star 11 again. We ask that each participant limit themselves to one question and one follow-up. Once your questions have been answered, please re-enter the queue if you would like to ask additional questions. One moment for our first question. Comes from the line of Heather Jones with Heather Jones Research. Please proceed.
Good morning, and I wanted to start with saying I appreciate y'all starting these calls. They're very helpful. I guess my first question is just on pricing. Just wondering if you this quarter your price capture relative to industry benchmarks was materially lower than it has been in the past, and so just wondering if you could share quantitative or qualitative color as to the shift that's gone on in your mix as far as cost plus versus market base, just so that we can, try to be more accurate in our projections going forward.
Hey Heather, good morning. This is Sherman, and thank you for that question. I'll start it off, and I'll call on Max to finish up here. But I want to start this conversation just talking about how important our customers are and us keeping that trust and support. And us always thinking about the long term. And each and every customer has their own go-to-market strategy, and there's certainly a multitude of different pricing structures out there. But I think what you're indicating, Heather, is the top side of the what we would encourage you to think about is just balance that with the downside, the mid-cycle uplift that comes with that. And over time, market realization actually improving for the long term. A reduction of volatility and certainly the longer term arrangements that come with that. So we think there's a lot of appeal in this shift. And certainly it's not complete because we look in our we do indicate the majority of our conventional agents off of the market framework. There's still a lot of pricing agreements. Certainly certain customers have different thought patterns on their go-to-market strategy. And once again, upside opportunities balanced with downside protection.
Trying to instill confidence.
Investing wasn't always easy. With crypto at iTrust Capital, today's investing looks different, easier, smarter, secure. The future is already here. Open an account today at itrustcapital.com.
All right, we have some other news to tell you about, too. Big changes in Omaha, Nebraska this week, and the business community at large is taking note. Warren Buffett has officially stepped down as the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, a company that he built over the last 60 years, and he's handing over the reins to Greg Abel. Buffett remains chairman, of course. That announcement from Buffett about this transition coming back in May at the company's annual meeting, it was a surprise not only to the shareholders, but to most of the board and to Abel himself. So, what changes for Buffett today? Listen to what he told us just a few days after that surprise announcement.
Everything will be the same. I will come in. I won't be up there speaking at the annual meeting, but I'll be in the director's section. Maybe you'll interview me at halftime or something of the sort. Who knows? But Greg will be the decider. He can't imagine how much more he can get accomplished in a week than I can, or a month. I mean, and at the same time, he's not a distorted individual. He likes to play ice hockey with his kids, and he lives in what would look like a normal life. And my guess is that if the neighbors didn't know who he was, they wouldn't have any idea that on January 1st, he is going to be the decider on a company that employs close to 400,000 people, and it's got plans to be around 50 or 100 years from now, and who knows what will happen, but it has a better chance, I think, of being here 100 years from now than any company I can think of.
Able is inheriting a Berkshire company with a huge stockpile of cash. It was over $381 billion as of the end of September. And after a year when the company gained just over 11% versus the S&P, which was up by almost 17%. Able, of course, will run all of Berkshire, being having the final say on both investments and holding companies. Buffett offering some high praise of his successor. Listen into that as well.
And Greg's operated more than I have when you get right down to it. I mean, he's gone over to England to run something. He went to, he came to Omaha one time to run a business for a few years. And there's no secret formula that only CEOs have or anything of the sort. So I'd rather have Greg handling my money than any of the top investment advisors or any of the top CEOs of the United States.
That is a huge endorsement.
It is a huge endorsement, but it's an endorsement we've made, and I am going to have him handling the money of the, in effect, he knows business.
So does Warren Buffett, and in fact, he is going out, guys, after 60 years with probably the most impressive compound interest record of anybody in history. Berkshire shares, I think I saw a statistic the other day that said they could drop more than 99%, and they still would have outperformed the S&P 500 over his 60 years running Berkshire.
Absolutely. I mean, so it's going to be unrivaled forever. I think what's really fascinating is how the character or the sort of profile of the company might evolve under Greg Abel. I've always assumed it was going to be a lot less about, the invest in public shares of other companies, that portfolio manager type approach, even though it's going to be there, right? You have all these great investments. I just wonder on the operating side what that means and if it's going to be centralized or how that really does break from here and how the market, I mean, the underperformance this year, first of all, beat the average stock. It was up huge into May on the exact announcement. And
right,
it's very
it was up
defensive.
huge until he announced he was stepping down, but I don't think it has collapsed as some people thought it would at some point.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens with it. I think the sharks are going to come out. You can tell Warren Buffett.
The new Terminal 1 at
still has all its original teeth, it looks like. Although he's super loaded, his teeth are still his original. Yeah, that's so screwed. What if Venezuela came and tried to get him out? Gotta be a black site.
If you live in a Maryland zip code and have 0 DUIs in the last 5 years, listen carefully.
Starting this edition with some breaking news now coming in as we are tracking minute to minute what's really happening in Venezuela. And of course, now the action has basically shifted in the United States of America, where President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, has been captured by the U.S. Special Forces. A confirmation now coming in, Rakshita, that Maduro is likely to be taken to New York. And we're also being told that, in fact, these are U.S. news outlets who are also reporting that Maduro is being flown to New York and is expected to be held at the MDC Brooklyn. That is ahead of the trial. Not very sure as to when exactly would the trial begin, but you've already heard Attorney General Pam Bondi putting out a social media post indicating that Maduro has been charged in a new indictment, and the existing charges that were basically filed in March 2020 does not include his wife And the earlier indictment that was filed under seal contained 4 counts, charging Maduro and 5 others with narco-terrorism, conspiracy to import cocaine, possession of machine guns, and conspiracy to possess machine guns. These are the charges that have been leveled against President Maduro. Now, just a caveat here, that is, as far as the Venezuelan regime is concerned, it has been recognized by the United Nations, and as far as the UN Charter goes, this military action of the United States of America is completely illegal, and it essentially violates international law. And that is the reason why Venezuela's allies, particularly the Russians, the Cubans, in fact from Chile, you've also had the response coming in from the president of Chile, and in fact also from the European Union, all essentially calling this, some would dub this as the high-handedness of President Trump, because literally what we have seen over the last couple of months, attempts that have been made to threaten President Maduro. He's been termed as a drug criminal, but many would say that this is also an attempt that has been made by the Americans to take control of the oil fields in Venezuela and essentially have a regime that is more friendly to the United States of America. Now that's the latest really coming in, Rakshita, in terms of the developments that have taken place. On the screens, this is exactly what President Maduro has been charged, and these are the 4 counts, in fact, on which he has been charged, along with 5 others, which certainly does not include President Maduro's wife. Rakshita.
Absolutely. In fact, we are also being joined by guests on the broadcast right now. We have Major General Dhruv Katoch joining us right now from Singapore, and we have Suresh Goyal, former ambassador, joining us from Delhi. Thanks so much, gentlemen, for joining us on this.
That's crazy. See some comments. I want to see some comments on this. What are people saying? What is this? Like a design or something, right? This is crazy. Now they're gonna install some puppet leader. Yeah, so if you send they're gonna run the country, they're gonna install some puppet leader. Who's pro-democracy. They don't give a fuck about US a little bit. She's a racist tasks. numerologists would say something about this. Yeah, they're gonna numerologists will be all over that, hopefully. We'll see. I can't believe she's releasing a letter. What happened to our little map of Venezuela? Could you imagine if you were vacationing there and then that happened? Let's put this guy in charge. People, why would you not go pillage? I think they sent people to his residence. Here we go, here are the details. So they say. This is crazy. Caracas Chronicles. Oh. Yeah, why they don't have this about it. Yeah, here we go. We got some of the explosions.